For weeks, if not months, there has been speculation about whether there is any news regarding Classic Plus. Whether that's the case can't be said for sure right now, but we do know that there will probably be a new version of World of Warcraft. And honestly, it looks very, very promising. I have to say, at this point, we only have the names so far. But it's called World of Warcraft Camelot. What it's all about, what clues we've found in the game files, and what it could ultimately be, we'll take a look at in this video. If you want, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. If you want to support me, remember, once we hit 38,000, there'll be a giveaway and a drawing, and with that, let's get into the video. Yeah, in the end, we know that Blizzard will most likely drop a big bombshell about Classic at BlizzCon. We saw all of this in that State of Azeroth, where Holly Longdale wanted to reveal something and then stopped at the last moment. Other than that, yeah, World of Warcraft Mists of Pandaria Classic is coming to an end. The Season of Discovery won't be getting any new content. And accordingly, there have been rumors for a long time that Blizzard is bringing some kind of Classic Plus. So, Classic, but with, for example, alternative quests, new areas, new classes. In other words, World of Warcraft based on Classic, but with new content that hasn't existed before. And all of this, yes, became more concrete because recently Blizzard invited Classic content creators to California to test a new game, but they weren't allowed to talk about it. And now data miners have discovered something very, very big. This whole thing was found by this user here on Twitter, Steven. And this was the day before yesterday. He writes, new heroic and epic licenses for the World of Warcraft Camelot were pushed. Not much information about it, but it looks like a brand new WoW game unrelated to the current Midnight Titan. I suspect it's Classic Plus that everyone talks about. And accordingly, yes, he was digging around in the game files. And in the end, he found clues about new content through the shop. You can imagine it like this. Whenever there's a new World of Warcraft version, there are also epic and heroic editions in the shop. It's the same with World of Warcraft Midnight, for example, where you can buy the different editions. The same goes for World of Warcraft Classic Mists of Pandaria, like here the Shah-infused Heroic Pack. It's available for the Anniversary Edition as well. Outland Heroic Pack. So basically, with every version of World of Warcraft, there are different editions, Epic and Heroic, that provide you with more content. And it was just discovered here that there is a heroic and an epic edition in the game files for World of Warcraft Camelot. That's apparently what it's called in the files themselves. As already mentioned, this whole thing isn't linked anywhere to World of Warcraft Midnight or The Last Titan, because the whole thing has a completely different patch structure. Steven says here that he looked a bit further into it, and apparently there's a patch 1.60. So if this were to continue in retail somehow, we'd have to be at least at patch 12. Something. But we don't have that. And instead, patch 1.6 is set in the classic world. All in all, the original patch 1.6 was released on the 12th. July 2005, and back then introduced Blackwing Lair as a new raid. So that's how you can imagine it. The patch already existed. Now, of course, the assumption here is that maybe everything before patch 1.6 is in the game, and with 1.60 they start fresh. After that, we had more patches like 1.70 called Rise of the Blood God that brought Zul'Gurub and so on. We had smaller patches that fixed bugs. Patch 1.8 was called Dragons of Nightmare and ultimately introduced those world bosses. Then there was another small fix patch. 8.1, there was 8.2, there was 8.3. So those were mostly, yeah, in the end, just smaller things. And then came patch 1.9.0, the Gates of Ankiraj. So you can already see it's most likely that here we so I would estimate now that you start with everything that happened up to patch 1.6. And from there, it continues with these patches, however, with completely new content. This is also confirmed here again. This version was discovered on an internal server. So not just this heroic and epic edition, but this internal to server was patched to 1.6.0 on June 4th. So at the beginning of the month. No. And so on and so forth. And here is that particular part from Holly Longdale again. Let's just take another quick look. Forge.
We in Classic for our players in China. Why? Not only are our audiences between Modern and Classic unique, but so are our WoW players in China. We made those realms for them based on how they play. And that's not all we're cooking up. I can say with confidence that all Classic players across the globe have a lot to look forward to. I'm really excited to announce that. I guess we'll save that for later.
Okay, so you see it here. She says she has something that all Classic players worldwide can look forward to. And she's excited to announce that, and then someone calls out from the background and she gets stopped. That's why, for me, it's pretty certain that there will be some big announcement related to Classic. And this Project Camelot, as it's called, is probably exactly that. In the end, yeah, maybe that's the reboot name. Maybe it's just an internal project name. We will see. But I can imagine, instead of calling it World of Warcraft Classic Plus, that they just call it World of Warcraft Camelot or something like that. So it's easier to tell everything apart. It'll probably be easier to market too. Whatever. But I think we can say that there's some interesting stuff coming our way. Unfortunately, there isn't much more information about it yet. That's it. That's all we have. And at this point, all we can do is wait. BlizzCon will take place in September, and that's where we'll most likely get a look at World of Warcraft, The Last Titan. So the new retail expansion that will be released then, but at the same time, we'll probably also get a look at this Project Camelot. But we haven't had a bombshell like this in a long time. It sounds very, very interesting. And let's wait and see what Blizzard pulls out of the hat. Feel free to write your opinion about it in the comments. I'm curious to see what you'll say. And yeah, I'd say I'll see you again in the next video. Have a wonderful time. Take care of yourselves. And with that, take it easy.